Everyone, it's Miss Williams from Hillcrest Library. This video is going to talk about LGBTQ plus books. So that's lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and a bunch of other things in the rainbow if you're not familiar with any of those terms. I'm going to try and have a little bit of each of these books because the categories are so wide. I'm going to do a quick book talk about each of these and kind of keep going. I'll let you know what identities some of these people have. Most of these books you should be able to find on your Overdrive platform through your public libraries if they have access to Overdrive, or Media on Demand it's sometimes called. If you can't get a hold of it through your public library, let us know. We'll try and get you a copy if we can, but please be aware that some of these might be harder to get a hold of because this is a pretty new list in honor of Pride Month. So the first one I wanted to talk about is Kings, Queens, and In-Betweens. This is an interesting book that deals with drag culture. So the main character, Nima, she thinks that she's boring, uninteresting, she lives in a small town, and she's trying to find a way to reconcile the fact that she's interested in girls and how to be a more interesting person to them. She ends up at a summer festival, finds a drag show, and then a lot of crazy things happen because she's meeting new and interesting people. So as she's going along making these connections, she starts to discover herself and who she is, and eventually ends up being a performer herself. Black Flamingo is a great novel in verse, super quick. A lot of discussion about intersectional identities in here. So this is a book about a gay male who ends up at a private school for a little bit, so he's struggling a little bit with his identity, liking to play with Barbies when he's growing up, being a black man as well, so he's trying to figure out how each of those pieces of the puzzle fit in together. And when he ends up in college, he ends up realizing that drag is an outlet that he can use to really experience his full self and not have to deal with the limited space that masculinity allows for him to be, and how to be a black man, what that looks like in society. A lot of different things going on here, and it's all really well done. Verona Comics is a little bit of a different take. The author specifically said she wanted to honor a LGBT relationship that might look heterosexual from the outside. So Jubilee and Ridley are both identifying as queer or bisexual. They're struggling with the specific label, but they are interested in males, females, some other people as well. And they meet at a Comic-Con basically type event and know after a brief time that their families are rivals in the comic book industry. So Ridley knows and kind of goes undercover trying to collect information about Jubilee's family. Jubilee's kept in the dark. Well, it's definitely a play on the Romeo and Juliet trope. And a lot of the good discussion in here is about mental health. Ridley has an anxiety disorder, a couple of other disorders that aren't specifically expressed or named throughout the novel, but you can see throughout the narrative that Ridley becomes more and more reliant on Jubilee, and it has a good take on what is a healthy relationship, how much is too much for one person to handle, when should you be seeking help for a partner. All of those topics are briefly touched on. So that's a really great novel. Tell Me How You Really Feel is a story about two women, Sana and Rachel. They both go to the same high school and they hate each other to start out with. There's a little bit of a misunderstanding because Sana is this preppy cheerleader and Rachel is the cool artsy filmmaker, and so of course Rachel thinks she's just trying to hit on me as a joke when in reality Sana was legitimately interested. They end up getting involved in a film project together and spending more time together and talking about what really they want from themselves, from their expectations, and it's a really cute story. We Are Totally Normal features Nandon. He ends up hooking up with Dave one night. He kind of does it just because he's like, all right, I guess he's into this, and then he thinks, maybe I'm actually interested in guys. And it's done in a way that's never this huge outcry of, oh my God, I'm interested in guys. It's just a very calm, all right, I didn't hate that. Let's explore that a little bit more. So I think it's a very good story about discovering your identity and what that necessarily means, and being able to question yourself and figure out, is this really who I am, in a way that's non-judgmental. Felix Ever After features a transgender male character. He ends up getting outed to his whole school because someone puts his dead name and pictures of him before he had transitioned up on a gallery wall that they have with a bunch of student artwork. And after that, he starts being really obsessed with who would have done such a hateful thing and tries to basically catfish somebody in order to get them to admit that it was them, but throughout the process realizes that that person wasn't the culprit, and in fact, that he might have more of a connection with that person that he thought. I Wish You All the Best by Mason Deaver deals with a
Non-binary character?
So with that one, Ben gets kicked out of the house and ends up going to live with their sister and tries to start a new school, and part of their issues with going to the school is how do you identify yourself to other people when you look outwardly one gender but you identify as non-binary. So using they them pronouns is one of the things, but Ben doesn't feel comfortable at this point coming out to people at school, so they really struggle with that identity and figuring out what that really means. That Blue Sky Feeling is a manga, so it is Noshiro and Sanada. Sanada is a character who is ridiculed by a lot of people at school, and Noshiro is a new person who's just like, hey, what's going on? I want to be really friendly with you. So as he's talking to him more, he realizes that, oh, he's gay, and why does everyone judge him so much for that? He's trying to really understand him and where he's coming from, and as he's learning more about it, he starts realizing that maybe he feels that Sanada is more than just a friend. Finally, the last one is Let's Talk About Love. This is about Alice. She is an asexual character, so she identifies as asexual or ace, and when she is starting to get feelings for one of her co-workers, Takumi, she tries to figure out how to come out as asexual, figure out what that means realistically for a relationship, and talk to people frankly about the fact that this is part of my identity. I am not going to change this, something that we can make work in a relationship. I'd say that it's definitely a new adult novel. It really takes place with a little bit of an older character, about college age, trying to figure out how to be in a relationship when you identify as asexual. So those are just a whole bunch of LGBTQ plus books. We're always happy to help you find more. Please let us know. Happy Pride Month, and thank you so much for listening.